Is that this bill be now read a second time, and I call the honourable member for Hunter.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I begin by reassuring and guaranteeing the member for Lyons that me and many of my front bench colleagues will be accepting his invitation and visiting his electorate on a regular basis between now and polling day, and in addition to reminding his constituents of all the measures he's backed since he's been there which have undermined their financial opportunity, I will be telling them that I was in the House the day he supported the repeal of third-party individual rights to appeal against Commonwealth decisions under the EPBC, and that he was prepared to accept that his farmers, even if they are able to secure standing, will have to put their farms on the line to take that legal action, to take the risk of taking legal action, the result of which could result in punitive cost orders against those very farmers, and of course the natural consequence, the loss of the farm. That's what the member for Lyons just supported in this place, and I'll be reminding his constituents at every opportunity. Now, to take him up on his point, there would be no greater supporter of the mining industry in this place than me. The coal mining industry alone directly employs some 11,000 people in my electorate, or in my region, in the Hunter region, and is crucial to about 50,000 more jobs indirectly. I invite members, including the member for Lyons. He was providing plenty of invitations for me to come to Tasmania. As I said, I'm happy to accept the invitation, but I invite him and other members to my electorate, where the majority of the people in the pub on a Friday night are working either in the coal mining industry or in an associated sector. I invite them to come to my supermarket on a Saturday morning, where in every aisle they will find a coal miner, a coal mining family, or a family working in a sector related to the coal mining sector. I invite them to come to me, accompany me to my local end-of-year school presentations, where out in the crowd you will see the high-vis uniforms associated with the coal mining industry, those parents who have found time away from the workplace to come and support and acknowledge the achievements of their children. Drive up through the Upper Hunter and witness the four-wheel drives with the iconic elevated fluoro flags so known to the coal mining industry, filling the car parks of local motels. Come into the local cafes with me and see the cafe doing very, very well and full of people who are so obviously associated with the coal mining industry. Come to my local sporting activities on a Saturday and Sunday and see how typical it is that the local sporting side, particularly the junior side, is sponsored by one of the coal mining companies that operate in the Hunter region. Come to the many community facilities around the Hunter electorate which have been constructed, built, developed with donations from the coal mining industry. More broadly, of course, Mr Deputy Speaker, the coal mining sector, or the mining sector more generally, was the key factor in taking us through the global financial crisis. In addition to the very good economic management of the then Rudd government, the coal mining sector was crucial in Australia avoiding recession and the pain and grief caused by so many other countries around the world, including, of course, the United States. Mr Deputy Speaker, I have to say that those who want to accelerate the demise of the coal mining industry are fools. They may be well-intentioned fools, but fools just the same. And I include in that group those who recently on Newcastle Council, in their wisdom, who decided to resolve as a council to ensure that none of the money they raise from ratepayers in the future shall be invested in any bank which has investments in the coal mining industry or indeed fossil fuel industries more generally. This, the council with the largest coal port in the world within its local government boundaries. This was just silly, and I've learned this morning that, disappointingly, last night an attempt to rescind that dumb decision failed at Newcastle Council. What a message to send. The most disappointing thing about that is that the council has been used as a pawn in a much larger game. They were no doubt lobbied to take this action by an organisation known as 350.org, an international green grip committed to divestiture in fossil fuel-related sectors. 350.org have been very clever. They'll be able to travel around the world now and around this country, convincing others to do the same and demonstrating that they've had the big win in convincing Newcastle Council, at the heart of the coal mining sector, to take this decision. Pawns in the game they are, and it was a very big mistake on their part. Now, anti-coal activists everywhere are happy for Australia and the rest of the Western world to have grown rich on the back of fossil fuels, but want to deny others as they strive to lift themselves out of poverty. Australia's coal is relatively clean and efficient. We should want the Chinese and the Indians, for example, burning our coal rather than the dirtier alternatives. It's common sense. And we should be happy to take the export earnings. It's a win-win, Mr Deputy Speaker. Like here, over time, those developing countries will become less dependent on fossil fuels, just like we are here. But it will be a slow process over many decades, and in the meantime we should continue to provide them with relatively clean fossil fuels. Here in Australia, renewables will continue to grow at a pace, and coal's decline will continue as a proportion of the share, but will continue to grow over the coming decades. Indeed, new technologies might enhance coal's future. We just don't know. But we don't need green activists trying to determine what the market should determine. Of course, my mind is not closed to the negative impacts of coal mining. This Sunday, as I do every year, I will attend the annual memorial services at the offices of the United Mine Workers Union. There we will pray alongside the Jim Comerford War, which contains the names of more than 1,800 men and boys who gave their lives winning the coal of the northern coalfields. Thankfully, we've come a long way in recent decades, largely thanks to the work of the union, and we now have dramatically fewer tragic losses of life, but sadly, they still occasionally occur. The coal mining industry impacts on our air and water quality. It probably exacerbates local health problems like asthma. It's not unusual for residents to find a thin layer of dust on the car in the morning. Our sustainable industries live in constant concern about the potential impact of the mining sector on their own industries. Many of these sustainable industries are also very important to the hunters' economy. Agriculture, viticulture and the thoroughbred breeding industries, for example. These are crucial sectors to the hunters' economy, and they provide us with much-needed diversity. As the member for Hunter, I've lived with land use conflict all of my political life, and I know it well. Managing land use conflict successfully results in jobs, wealth, economic diversity and a healthy local environment. Like workplace safety, community tolerance for less and optimal environmental outcomes is in decline. So are our challenges in ensuring the sustainability of the fossil fuel sector. Now, the Commonwealth recognised this and these growing community concerns when it dealt itself into the environmental approvals process through the Environmental Protection and Diversity Act, the very act the government of the day is trying to undermine today. This was good because, amongst other things, people were losing faith and continue to lose faith in the capacity or will of state governments to get the balance right. And I've got to say there's been no greater example of that than in my own state of New South Wales, and I say that with great regret. The PM who introduced the EPBC was John Howard. Tony Abbott now makes John Howard look like Al Gore. That's the reality. Tony Abbott makes John Howard look like and sound like Al Gore. Now, this bill seeks to remove key components of John Howard's bill. That is the right of third-party appeal against decisions made under the EPBC. Surely a natural right. They are limited appeals, and of course, in the 15 years since the introduction of the EPBC, something like 0.04% of the decisions have been challenged. Now, this bill or this amendment allegedly comes out of the Adani case. That is the successful challenge to the approval of the Adani mine in Queensland, a project I support. But the problem with the Adani mine was not the Act, it was the minister's incompetence. We shouldn't be changing the Act, we should be changing the minister if we're serious about the Adani mine. Now, my real concern here, of course, Mr Deputy Speaker, speaking as the Shadow Minister for Agriculture, is that we are about to deny farmers, primary producers, growers, etc., the opportunity to appeal against decisions when they believe they're going to adversely affect their operations. Now, on the eve of the introduction of this bill, the Attorney-General was running around, as was Minister Hunt, saying, "Oh, we're not going to repeal. We're not going to repeal." No, I retract that. That's not true. On the eve of the introduction of the bill, the Minister for Agriculture was running around saying, "Oh, we're going to protect the farmers. We're only going to repeal part of the Act. The rest will remain, and farmers will be okay." The very next morning, Minister Hunt introduces the bill, and guess what? All of Section 487 is going. All of Section 487 is going. Now, we are arguing, I think rightly, that is going to deny farming groups and individual farmers the right to appeal under the EPBC. The government says something different, but many people disagree with them, including, it seems, the President of the New South Wales Farmers Federation, and including Mr Tim Duddy, a farmer on the Breeza Plains and chairman of the Karuna Coal Action Group. They are very concerned. And we claim, I think very rightly, that even if a farmer is able to take standing, he or she will face the risk of punitive cost orders in the courts. In other words, a farmer wanting to challenge a decision with the repeal of this section will put his or her farm on the line, risk their farm for the right to appeal against a decision which is going to adversely impact on their farming operations. Now, this is of particular relevance at this point in time, as we all see in the public domain the debate around the Shenhua mine on the Breeza Plains, in the very heart of the Minister for Agriculture's electorate. Very grave concerns. Of course, the President of the New South Wales Farmers and Tim Duddy are both from that part of the world. Barnaby Joyce can't run around on the eve of the introduction of the bill and say, "Don't worry, only part of Section 487 is going to be repealed, so you'll be all right," and then the next morning repeal or attempt to repeal all of Section 487 and say you're still going to be all right. He can't have it both ways. Now, Minister Joyce has to start standing up for his electorate. It's been revealed that he made no representations to Minister Hunt on the Shenhua project. No representations to Minister Hunt on the Shenhua project. I've seen some of the advice to Minister Hunt, which suggests very clearly that there are many unanswered questions still around the Shenhua project. I support the industry, but I want to make sure that every decision is made on the right basis, and there are unanswered questions. It's not good enough for Minister Joyce to go onto the Breeza Plains and say he disagrees with his own cabinet decisions, but then do nothing about it. They are lining up on the Liverpool Plains to lynch Minister Joyce because of his inaction, his small talk and his ability to get things done. And when he votes, yes, lynch would be the description I would give, member for Riverina. There are a lot of very angry people in that part of the world. And when he comes in, metaphorically speaking, you know I'm speaking metaphorically, when he comes in here today, I suspect, or whenever the vote comes on, and votes in favour of this bill before the House today, to repeal the right of his farmers to appeal against a decision like Shenhua, he will have just driven another nail into his electorate coffin, metaphorically speaking, I say to the member for Riverina. Minister Joyce, I notice he's been speaking on the second reading of many bills. Is Minister Joyce on this bill today? I don't think so. Surprise, surprise. He was here on the water bill last night. Happy, unusual as it is for cabinet ministers to come and do second readings. He was on the water bill last night. Minister Joyce needs to come in here today, add himself to this list and explain to his constituents, his farming communities in his electorate and right around the country why he's denying them in the future the right to appeal against projects like Shenhua. We don't want any double talk. don't double talk, explain why it was he assured them that only part of the section was being repealed, and now that all the section is being repealed, they're going to be okay. We look forward to hearing from the Minister.
The question is that this bill